Hello, this is Mark L. White for Health Hacks, and today we have Chris Gibson, a holistic skin. What do you call yourself? A skincare expert, a holistic health
Yeah,
coach.
it's a holistic health coach, but the skincare is the focus. And as an esthetician, I take a holistic approach to skin issues and anti-aging and so on. So it really is a mix of the current technology and treatments and skincare ingredients, but also a holistic approach to skincare so that people don't get caught up in the conundrum of what should I be using and is this going to work and how much money should I spend? So I feel almost like the guy that just sort of solves that problem.
So I'm looking at you on video. You look very young. At least your
Well,
skin does, which I would hope from an esthetician who's a skincare expert. But how old are you?
50, I'll be 58 in March.
Wow. You look like I was going to guess about 35.
Yeah,
Uh,
I hear that a bit.
so so you're 58, so you've been doing this for quite a while. What was it that got you into skincare and taking care of your skin?
Skin problems. you know, I had acne, severe acne, started really early for me, kind of ran in the family. So 11 years old, I started having breakouts, and my parents whisked me off to the dermatologist because um, scarring was an issue with the type of acne that everyone in my family got. So it was cystic acne. So I started going to dermatologists really early and taking antibiotics, holding on to the hope that I would outgrow it because that's what everybody said. But I didn't. So at 23, I was still battling it. I went to a really expensive dermatologist. And this is still back in the 80s, and got the same prescriptions, just paid more for the visit, threw them in the trash, and then I started digging into why I was having this problem.
Okay.
So back then, of course, no internet to look anything up, which might be actually a might have been a gift these days because there's so much crazy stuff. But I went and researched food and skin issues and went and saw a herbalist who had an herbal shop. I wrote about that in the book that I had out in 2004. And that put me on the path of learning about diet and its role in skin health and what taking medications do for skin, particularly for me, sugar, and what ingredients in skincare actually can aggravate things, even though they may be labeled for the problem. So that really is what kind of got me going in it. And then, of course, because I had results, and I have a big mouth and talked about them, I ended up helping a lot of friends and family members that were having the same sort of issues. So it just sort of followed me around. And then, of course, I wrote a book about it in 2004, which did it really well. It actually got me on television because people were still having the same issues. Um, about the same time, MRSA became a problem. So my antibiotic use for acne that I talked about in the book sort of merged with that in the mainstream. And so I spent a lot of time on television, 4 years, talking about holistic health and actually obesity and skincare and all sorts of things. And now that I've gotten older, the focus has switched to anti-aging because since I've been taking really good care of my skin since I was 22, 23 years old, and I don't look what people typically think a person should look like approaching 60. So there's a lot of credibility just from that piece. So it's sort of evolved over the years, but it's still skincare and it's still the same principles. And it's exciting time to be talking about this because we have all the technology coming out with the red light therapies and RF radio frequency, and things that can help people out with their skin, especially sun damage and aging issues, without the use of topical products, which not everybody can tolerate skincare products. So really exciting time to kind of be back at this top of the game.
What was your acne when you were in your teens? Was it genetic or was it only a diet component? And how did you figure out what was causing it?
Well, there is genetic predisposition to certain things like small pore size, a lot of extra oil production. Your genetics don't really do anything to create acne, but it can create elements in your skin that can lead you to be predisposed for it. So then when you layer on top of that a diet full of sugar, at the same time you're taking a lot of antibiotics for skin problems, you end up with poor gut health, an overgrowth of yeast and toxicity in the body, which means that your immune system is sort of turned on all the time. We hear a lot about inflation, same thing, inflammation in the body. Yeah, inflammation in the body, which leads to that extra sensitivity. So where one person might have the same amount of oil and bacteria in their skin, they're not having the reaction that another person is because the immune system isn't like on fire about it. They might get a couple of breakouts here and there, but cystic acne is a very aggressive response by the immune system, just like rosacea, psoriasis, and eczema are all related to that immune response. So if we can reduce inflammation through the dietary changes and product changes, a lot of times you get some relief pretty quickly. And so I went on a fast is what I did. The first thing I did was cut out all the food for 3 days. And that was the first time ever I had seen my skin stop breaking out in years and years, 12 years. So clearly I learned that sugar was a problem for me. It triggered my response. We know that that's more mainstream now. It used to hear the thing, chocolate will break you out. It's not the chocolate, it's the sugar. But now it's getting pretty mainstream that too much sugar in your diet, just besides the problem that we have with diabetes and things like that come from it, it actually damages cell walls. And in skin, it hurts and hinders collagen production because an excess amount of sugar in your blood, your body can't process all of it. What it doesn't process, it glycates or oxidizes and becomes a toxin. So that sets the immune system off. So if you have a predisposition for a skin response like eczema, acne, rosacea, or psoriasis, you get what's called a flare-up or a breakout. So we know that mechanism now. I had to argue that point for a long time in the early 2000s, but it's become pretty mainstream knowledge now that there are relations between food, dairy products for some people, and then of course sugar, and even gluten for some folks sets it off. So,
I guess let me ask you this. Let's say somebody's struggling with acne, and fortunately I haven't struggled with acne, but let's say I'm in my 20s. First thing you would tell them is get your diet right, and then you should see these issues clear up. Is that
usually what I do is have folks go on a food vacation and cut out everything except maybe leafy greens or some healthy, mix of fruit. Depends on what their diet is like, because everybody's diet is so varied.
That's the first time I've heard a diet called a food vacation.
Yeah, it's a food vacation because you're going to have to eat. You can't not eat forever. And then we add things back in one at a time, not sugar. I always try to have everyone restrict their refined sugar intake. Most people don't realize how much they're eating anyway. The average American eats a cup to a cup and a half of sugar a day, and that's not putting sugar in anything. It's just in the foods that we eat, where 2 teaspoons is what you should be limited to of refined sugar that's not naturally occurring. And then I talk about also the techniques that I've learned through the years from the esthetician side, from the dermatologist that I've worked with and still work with, things like steaming your skin with a warm washcloth or a steaming machine to open the pores and allow things to drain out, using some sort of exfoliation sponge to make sure we get the dead skin cells off the very outer layer of the skin and keep pores open. And then I recommend ingredients to use like niacinamide, things that we know now, salicylic acid, that will help dissolve sebum in the pores. And usually that combination, and I'm being very general because it can vary from person to person. There is no blanket approach, but in general, that helps folks a whole lot. And that's kind of why I think the book did so well, because I talked about those type of things, and it was working for people, whereas taking even Accutane, which I did 3 times, wasn't working. So for the people that weren't getting relief from medications, and in some people medications do work, and some people over-the-counter products like Proactiv work, or at least work for a while, but there is a set of us humans that those things just didn't seem to have any impact on it at all. So the two-pronged approach was to reduce inflammation in the skin and in the body, and then to provide your skin a way to release the excess oil that builds up in the pores that the bacteria actually grows on digest. So that is sort of the process in a nutshell for acne.
Is there a blood test you can take to find out what foods you respond to, like
There,
IgG or?
there are blood tests that can tell you how sensitive you are to sugar as far as your glycemic spikes, which can be helpful. But a lot of people that come into the blog or what have you, or watch the videos on YouTube, usually don't have a whole lot of money to spend on those kind of tests. So they sort of just do the food vacation and figure out, oh yeah, that does help. Not eating all of that stuff that I've been eating does help. So they sort of take it that way. You know, I'm not anti-doctors, I'm not anti-dermatologists, obviously not. I have several you know, very good dermatologists that I consult with on some of the videos, and having my esthetician background, I know kind of what ingredients will work in the food that's relatable to most people. But there's no reason, if you can afford to do those kind of tests, to take them. Just make sure they're legit, because there's a lot of that kind of stuff out, you know, on the internet that that's kind of not tested. So you sort of have to do, again, some due diligence and research on anything like that to make sure that it's going to be viable information for you to use to make a decision.
Now you have a YouTube channel, over 100,000 subscribers. I assume like one of the biggest, and I took a look at it. What you do is you review a lot of these so that people don't have to do the heavy lifting.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. How long have you had your YouTube channel?
I decided to do YouTube in 2018, so it's relatively new and it grew relatively fast. I started off focused on acne, and you know, I had some what they would call success with the channel, but I expected that to some degree because I have the background in it and the book and all of that kind of stuff. But it was really when I started focusing on anti-aging for people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and onward, that the channel just exploded. So I went from like 15,000 subscribers, and 7 months later I had 100, and now it's 120. So it's like really growing pretty quickly. But you know, I do the same thing for those folks. It's really understanding what ingredients you really need, what particular what specific issues that you're trying to address, and then knowing what your sensitivities are to skincare products, because not everybody can use just every type of serum out there. So it's really a little bit of a process. And so I try to take the information and break it down, because every month there's a new celebrity skincare line coming out. If you're on the online at all with your social media, you're hit in the face constantly with skincare ads, all sorts of different products. So I try to make it easier for people to dissect and understand that, although I do preach, you know, that you need to read labels and make sure you know what's in things. And then I try to focus on what to stay away from, and the patience factor in skincare, which a lot of people, just like weight loss, they want results really quickly. And the skincare industry, just like the weight loss industry, pushes that envelope quite a bit on their labeling, or they allow that things seem like they're going to work really, really quickly. When you're dealing with skin comes from deeper layers way down and moves its way up. Skin cells do. So it takes an amount of time, even when you're really consistent with what you're doing, to see those results. There's not instant like a facelift or a deep chemical peel. There's not instant results, although there are really great results from things. You just have to be patient.
This episode is brought to you by Gainswave. If you're a guy who is not achieving optimal performance in the bedroom, and you've tried the pills and you've tried the shots, and you're looking for an all-natural way to boost blood flow in the penis, Gainswave is evidence-based and proven. Go to Gainswave.com and find a provider near you. Is there something like, as we get older, is there things we should be doing every day, like moisturizing our skin or?
Yeah, sunscreen, you know, people ask me, and it's easy looking back now on the things that I've been very consistent with, because I test a lot of stuff. But consistently sunscreen, I've used consistently glycolic acid exfoliation serum. I've been using that forever. I use a exfoliating sponge in the shower, a Goshi towel, which is an exfoliator, and a Buff Puff facial sponge. And what those things do is help just lift out that very outer layer, use them very lightly like you would a washcloth or a loofah. And then I apply lots of moisturizer. Hyaluronic acid based moisturizers are really better. But through the years, it's varied for me on the moisturizer side. You know, I've lived in Pennsylvania for 15 years. Winters there terribly dry. So more on the side of moisturizer there, whereas in Florida, it's not quite as bad. It's pretty humid except for this time of year. So yeah, that protecting the skin from sun damage is one of the key things. Exfoliation is one of the key things. And then of course, as we get older, we produce less skin oil and less hydration for the skin. So replacing things like peptides, the amino acids that your skin needs. And then also, of course, as you said, moisturizer, a good one. If you have dry skin, one that has ceramides or fatty acids in it to help build the lipid layer. If you have normal and oily skin, you can use just a hyaluronic water cream that's glycerin based that doesn't have any oil or fragrance in it. So yeah, those are the main things. Over 30, say 35 on, if you can tolerate retinol creams or moisturizers, most dermatologists will recommend them. And I do, just based on what I've seen over the last 35 years, what they've done for people. I have the luxury of having people still around me that did not do the things that I did. And looking at their skin difference to mine. And a lot of them wish they had done what I did back then, because that's kind of where this stuff comes from. So, you know, there are ways to enhance and improve and reverse skin aging, but it's much easier to prevent it in the first place. And if you want to know how much sun damage you've accumulated on the areas of your skin that have been exposed, just look at your butt. The skin on your butt has not been exposed for most of us. And that shows you the difference between sun exposed skin, even if you've been good and diligent with sunscreen like I have, and non-sun exposed skin. It's quite startling for people when they think about it that way.
So how about like things like taking vitamin D or any other types of
Sure.
supplements we should be
Yeah,
taking?
yeah. Diet is a big component of anything in your health, including your skin, which is your largest organ. So is fitness. Having a moderate amount of activity daily, 20, 30 minutes, really can make a difference. The issue with food is that you want to make sure that if you are not getting certain things, that you're supplementing them. And there are good supplements out there. Let's have to talk to your doctor if you're on medications of some kind before you take anything. But one of the big ones that we now know is a problem for a lot of people, especially women, is K2. So there's two vitamin Ks, K1 and K2. K1 is more prevalent. It's easier to get in food. K2 is not easy, and you usually have to take a supplement. But K2 is really important because it helps the body distribute calcium more equitably through your system. So it doesn't build up in your arteries and your veins. It gets into the cells of the brain where it needs to be, into the cells of the skin where it can be used to make collagen and help with those microfibers and elastin in your skin. So for women, we already know calcium distribution and usage just becomes a problem as their hormones change as they get older. So vitamin K2 can be very helpful, especially when taken with D3. Again, the issue is K2 is got to be in a supplement form. And if you're on medications or blood thinners, you definitely need to talk to a doctor before you take that supplement. In most cases, I will tell you it's usually okay, but it does help with bruising, and it does help the blood coagulate. So again, very important a person talk to a doctor about that. But it does work. So K2 is probably like the hot one right now because it's finally gotten some press. It's been overdue for a long time. And then of course the leafy greens, the minerals that you can get from eating, kale and spinach and all the things that a lot of people go, I don't like kale myself, but it really is good for you and good for your skin, and it helps with hydration. And a lot of people don't realize that red fruits and vegetables help your skin protect itself against sun damage. So food can go a long way over time to make a big difference. And then of course, fitness. There's a study that just came out in October, Health Got study, where they took a group of individuals that were sedentary with fairly poor diets, high in sugar, fat, and they got them to participate in this study where it was an 8-week study where they wanted to see if changing your food, your diet to a healthier diet, like I'm talking about, getting some physical activity going. And I'm not talking about running marathons, but at least swimming or walking or playing with the dog, but every day, 20 to 30 minutes, how much biological age would that reverse in a person? This is an independent study. And you could reverse about 3 years of biological age in your body in 8 weeks. So that's pretty significant. So you can imagine making those changes and staying with them over time can probably make a big, big difference in how you look and feel.
So you got this YouTube channel, you're in skincare, and then you decide to go into just overall anti-aging, which is this huge, huge like topic. But was it like when you hit 50, you're like, okay, I'm going to start looking at how do I take better care of my body? Like, what was that? Like, why did you decide to go take all of that on and become so passionate about it?
Well, it's really the channel drove it. The subscribers drove it, because I haven't really changed anything I've been doing to help myself not age any faster, because these are my habits. These are things I've been doing since I was 23, but the application of them is valid at any age, and it's never too late to start. So as I began to slip my age into some of these videos, and it was just as a reference, the first thing was a lot of shock with a lot of subscribers, because they didn't realize that I was that age, which is, I never talked about it. So
it's really amazing how young you look. If people are listening to this, it's like you look
yeah,
very
well,
young.
and I think the energy level I have and the way I sound, I think all of those things have come up in comments. And I think it's just that I have a lot of energy, but I've always been very passionate about staying in shape. If I start to put on a little too much weight, I'm good about like making changes to get the weight back off. These are self-disciplines that I just have. So it's really more about, I share that with folks, and I reference it more in videos now. So it's sort of pushed the channel in that direction, which makes me a bit of an oddity on YouTube, because when you talk about skincare from the younger perspective, there are a lot of guys talking about skincare that are very successful on YouTube. And then when you get to the over 50 crowd, we'll say, it's mostly women talking about that. And they mix in fashion and makeup, and I don't do any of that stuff. So I just talk about skincare and products, same way I've always done it.
Is the people you're talking to, are they mostly women, men, 50-50?
50-50.
Okay.
50-50. Sometimes it
50,
depends on the subject
over
matter.
50, like
I have people
older, younger.
I have everything in there. I would say the largest percentage right now are going to be people over 40 years old, pretty evenly split between men and women, because men are starting to, excuse me, men are starting to take their skincare more seriously, more so from the skin cancer perspective, driving that. But at least it's a way to get folks to like pay attention. But I still have, every day I have those videos that are on acne. I have questions from folks, and especially where it comes to diet and product use. So it's just kind of grown.
And you post every day, once a week, twice a week, whenever you have
3 to 5 videos a week. I'm really busy with it. Last year I averaged 3 videos. It was like 2 to 3. Now the rate's 4 to 5.
We had a lot more extra time last year with the everybody being inside and everything. But like with the pandemic, did you touch on anything regarding the pandemic?
There were some issues, mask me. the problem people had with the mask touching the skin.
You have to be careful what you say. You might lose you don't want to lose your YouTube channel. You say the wrong thing.
What I did was I address just the issue that comes from something, not, whether that's the practice you should do or not.
Mhm.
You know, it's I did do a video about jumping back into your skincare routine. If you're someone who's been in lockdown and you just haven't done anything, you don't want to go and start putting all these products back on your skin like you were when you stopped, because you'll overwhelm it. You have to work your way back into it just like you did originally as you added things.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of focus on how to get people back into the swing of things with that, but not so much, you know, YouTube is very okay with that type of information, as long as you don't get political with it, and as long as you're not telling people what to do. You're just providing advice for issues. I didn't ever have any red flags or anything like that. They've been nothing but supportive, because that's a need. I
Your
mean, people need to know
microphone.
that
Can you
stuff.
hear me?
Yes.
Your microphone. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. I think my thing came unplugged.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's not, that's
You're
okay.
talking, I'm like, God, YouTube already shut them off.
No, they've been really, they're very
Uh,
supportive of
Yeah.
that type of content. What they're not
I-
supportive of is anything that's going to cause.
I think the whole secret, and you obviously know this because you've done such a good job, is you give out information that helps people. You're authentic about it. You don't come up with conspiracy theories
No.
or market snake oil, and I think you're okay.
Yeah, the only thing I get a little bit on the soapbox about sometimes is some of the stuff that's on TikTok, and people like just buying something what they see someone slathering toothpaste all over their skin. You know, I will address some of that sort of some of those sort of things if I see something harmful or that is not blanket good for everybody. I will address it. I addressed it a thing called slugging back last year, which is placing Vaseline all over yourself overnight. So there are things like that that I will, especially if my subscribers are like asking me a lot. I have a blog tied to the YouTube channel, and I've built a very engaged audience. So they will very much question stuff they see, and I'll go through and look and see if it's something that's trending that I'll try to head off at the pass. But they're a great group. They're very helpful to each other. I'm lucky in that way. Even on the channel comments, if you look at them, there will be people that jump in before I can, because I can't get to everybody anymore. It's 120,000 of them. I can't get to everybody, but they will jump in and help each other out with stuff, or they'll say, Chris did this video, or here's what he said this, or they'll have a personal thing that they can provide. They do the same thing on the blog. And I would rather have a smaller channel, which I don't, but I would rather have a channel that's like that than 4 or 5 million people that are chasing after conspiracy theories and cancel culture and all that business. I don't care about that.
It's kind of it's interesting. We get into the politics of social media, but if somebody wants to check your YouTube channel out and obviously subscribe, what's the name of the channel?
It's Chris Gibson. It'll come up. Some Chris Gibson Live was what we originally started with. It's still that, but you type in Chris Gibson on YouTube and I pop up.
Do you do live videos?
I'm going to be starting to do live sessions this year, both on my blog and on Facebook and YouTube through StreamYard. So I'll be doing one, but it'll have those 3 audiences. Nice. I hope to do that in the spring. I'm getting used to this new schedule of videos because I have a lot of content to do this year. So I'm going to put that in there as well. For the longest time, I would poll, and it was one of the things people wanted, but it was kind of far down the list. But I think now I probably have enough people in there to make that time worth it and fun, because it'll be fun. Anything I do like that's going to be fun. So not just Q&A.
Well, it's good stuff. Very interesting. So we'll put links in there so people can join. Also check out your blog. I really appreciate it. It was very nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.